Hi Flosstube, welcome back to Snickerdoodle Stitch. My name is Kathleen and this is a channel about cross stitch. So thank you again for everybody who's returning and welcome anybody who hasn't been here before. I especially want to give a shout out to the folks that I know watch me every time and often leave comments, and I love getting the feedback and the ideas from you guys. So I wanted to start just with talking a little bit about those. I am going to try my best to hold things up closer to the camera and hold them up longer. I now know what other Flosstubers talk about. It feels like I hold it up forever. And I need to remember that I actually film this with a large TV with my phone hooked up to that. So what I'm seeing is very large, and if you're watching it on a phone or iPad or some other kind of smaller device, you might want things closer. So I am going to try my best. So thank you for that feedback. I had a question last Flosstube about these kind of Lucite printed floss drops that I got at Sweater Weather, and they are from Crossed In Stitches, and they have little daisies on them, which you can probably see really well against my dark green sweatshirt. But I wasn't sure how to put the the floss number, how to label these so that when I had flosses on the drops, I knew what floss was what. And I got a lot of fantastic suggestions. So I had mentioned a P-Touch, a Brother P-Touch labeler, which I use for other things, but the adhesive on those, they don't peel off very well. It leaves behind kind of this stringy white mess. But someone did suggest just printing very small and putting the smallest piece I could on there, and then I could always just label over top of it. They're ultra thin. So I like that suggestion. Somebody else suggested just a small sticker dot and just pencil on the floss. I really like that idea. And then several people suggested using Sharpies. And then when I was done with my project, just using alcohol to take the Sharpie off. And I like that idea. That may be the one that I use. I'm a little concerned. I know over time Sharpie can actually deteriorate different plastics, so I'm not sure how it will react to this, but I think that's probably what I'm going to try. And maybe I'll just use these for projects that I know aren't going to be kitted up for 2 years before I try to take the Sharpie off, a project that I know I will get done in a shorter time than that. But thank you all for your fantastic suggestions, because I really was drawing a blank on what to do. All I could think was on my kitchen containers that I put in the freezer, I use a grease pencil, but that would make a royal mess. I would end up with black grease pencil on my floss, on my fabric, on everything. So I knew that wasn't practical. But I didn't want to put a big label on them. One, that would cover the design or obscure it. Like here I've got a tag behind there, and if I put something big and white on there, you're not going to see the daisies. And two, that I would never be able to get off. So thank you everybody for your suggestions. That's what I love about Flosstube, is the community and the ideas. This last weekend I went to my hand stitching, that's what how we refer to it, weekend with some friends. We go a couple times a year to a quilting retreat. We get a house that's set up for quilting. It's got huge tables and ironing boards and all that kind of stuff, and we take our machines. But this trip we just got an Airbnb, so we weren't hauling along machines. And my friend Lana, who's Silly Notion Stitcher on Flosstube, and I took our cross stitch, and our friend Jane took knitting, which I expected, and Quinn I knew was going to have an assortment, and she did. She had some punch needle, which she whipped through in no time. It made me a little jealous of how long cross stitch takes. And then she's been working on a temperature chart. It's another one from Zara Designs, which is the Etsy designer that I've been doing this year. So yeah, we all had our hand stitching. I will say we probably spent more of the weekend shopping, eating, and talking than we did actually stitching, but we got some stitching done. So I have some stuff to show. While I was up that way, the first evening I was there, I went to, they call it UFO night at the local quilt shop, and it's really just an evening where you can get together and sew on whatever project. So it's not a class, it is in their classroom, but everybody just works on what they're working on. And when I was there, they now had this stuff, Quilting and Crafter Steamer Boost. It is from Magic, which is actually another name from Faultless, which you might know. They make Niagara spray starch, and they make some other products that I was more familiar with, but I had never seen this product. And it claims, and actually it did, that it's a superior wrinkle remover, reduces steaming time and effort, and is fragrance free, and resists future wrinkles. And then it says it's safe for most fabrics such as cotton, linen, and wool. And one of the things they really mention it doing is removing fold lines. So when you buy fabric on a bolt, the fabric is actually folded in half and then rolled on the bolt. And that seam where it's folded in half, it is almost impossible to get that crease out. It steamed in at the factory, and that crease does not want to come out. And this really worked. It took that crease out. I was working on some quilting stuff that night. So I started thinking, I wondered if this would work for linen or Aida or other cross-stitch fabric, where, especially if it's been packaged folded up, sometimes I have that same problem where those creases don't want to come out. It does say to test for color fastness and water spotting. So that was my original thought with it. But then when I looked on the Faultless website, it actually has different directions there. It says it's not recommended for dry clean only things, including linen. But here it says it's safe for linen. And on the website, it actually listed the ingredients, and it is on here too, but it's a lot of hydroxyethylurea, that kind of sounding stuff. So I'm not sure long term how fabric safe this is. Yeah, I originally thought it would be nice for pre-ironing linen prior to using it to stitch on, but I'm not sure that in 5 or 10 years it might discolor or do something funny. So I'm probably not going to use it for that. But for the quilters out there, especially if you're one who washes your quilts after you're done stitching, this was amazing at really making the fabric super smooth. It did get rid of the wrinkles as cleaned. So I thought I would share that, but with my reservations about it. So now I'm going to leap into the stitching, and I have several FFOs, and I'm kind of even trying to figure out where to start. I think I'm going to start here. So I had shown this last time. I finished the AuryTM, the new Gobbletons. This is the pattern, and this is the one that I was doing without the turkey heads. So I have it fully finished and framed. And here it is. It is on the Fabric Flare 28 count even weave. And I'm going to hold it up closer and longer. This is the one that I did not stitch the turkey heads. I just repeated the Quaker motif on the tops in place of the turkey heads. But that is my, I'm going to hold it back a little since this is an FFO. That's my finished frame piece. It fit in, this is a 15-inch frame. It maybe could have used a 16-inch frame. I couldn't find a 16-inch in anything other than black and white, and I didn't want black or white for this. I do use a lot of black and white frames, but not for this with these fall colors. It just didn't go at all. So that is FFO'd, and I'm gonna hang it up for probably next year. I've already started taking down my year-round decorations and things, anticipating doing a deep clean this weekend so that I'm not having Thanksgiving here. We're going to my brother's house. So on Friday, next Friday, I'm hoping to decorate for Christmas. So I've already kind of started that transition phase. I think I'll stick with the fall stitching. So I also showed last time I had finished from Blackbird Design, Winds of Autumn. I had finished this piece right here, but I hadn't FFO'd it. And I really want to do this piece. but that will be next year at this point. And last time, I knew as soon as I finished filming what a goofball I was, because I couldn't remember the name of the fabric, and I said that it was Fox and Rabbit, and I thought it was called something like Mayflower. I don't know where Mayflower came from. It's flannel flower, and it's a cream, but it's kind of got some gray modeling on it. So what you're seeing there really is gray modeling. That's not my sweatshirt showing through. So flannel flower, not Mayflower. So I got this finished. So I had this tin, which I bought at a thrift store. You can still see my dollar price sticker on there. And I cut a circle of cardboard that would fit in there. And then on top of that, let me just angle it so you can see it's poofy. I put 2 layers of cotton batting and 2 layers of wool batting to poof it up. And then I drew the fabric around. So here is my finished piece. That is on 32 count, flannel flower, not Mayflower. It is stitched with Forbidden Fiber Arts floss, and I don't remember the name of the floss. It's an interesting kind of black, blue, and a little bit of a purpley color in there. When I say black, it's probably more of like a steel gray. When I glued it in here, it looked a little lost. And so there is, you can see just the lacy here. You can see there's some black trim that I tucked in around there. Just to make it go better with this silver tray that I put it in. This wasn't what I planned on finishing this in. I had another black one. But when I went to finish it, it was like a 1/4 inch too small. So it wasn't going to work at all. So I ended up with this one, which was a little bigger than what I would really have picked out, but it will work. Or it works. So that is FFO'd and ready for next Halloween. A little too late for this Halloween. This next FFO, I was on an FFO streak. I showed before from the Brenda Gervais Scary Mouse, this one that says Boo, but I was just doing the mouse, and I was doing it on a very large 16 count, but 4 threads over every 2. So 4 over 2 so that it would make it big. You know, this little guy, they finished at 8.5 inches by 3 inches for this whole piece. And my mouse is about that big. So I did it as a stand-up. And here's my stand-up. I'm really happy with the way it came out. This little pumpkin over here, instead of stitching the pumpkin, and I stole this idea directly from Salty Yarns, who had also stitched the mouse big, but they had done it as a pillow. The little pumpkin is a bead, and you can get them at Michael's. And so it is just hanging on there. I've got this polka dot print on the back and the bottom. And I made the cording using DMC floss. So the mouse is stitched with, I think Weeks Dye Works mostly. But I didn't want to use my expensive over-dyed for the cording that I made. So if you do any of your own finishing, and you don't have it, I highly recommend one of the DMC floss charts. They are pricey. I don't remember how much. I just remember they're pricey, but these are actually samples. I don't think you can tell. Those are actually pieces of floss wrapped around. So it's the exact color of the flosses as they are today, along with the numbers, and they're all sorted by color family. There's actually another page here, so it's pretty big. It's got all their specialty flosses in there too. But I love this for, I could take my mouse And I could just hold it up against this, or I could put my Weeks Dye Works against this and find a color that was going to be the match that I liked. I keep my floss in the floss away bags, so they're all in the little tiny bags in 2 drawers in my childhood desk. And sometimes if I'm stitching something and I'm like, oh, I need an orange, it's really easy for me to pull this and find the orange that I want and then just go grab that baggie. It's not simple to just rifle through the baggies the way they're all standing up in the drawers. So I couldn't live without this. It's worth every penny. It's probably saved me the money just in being able to pick a DMC instead of like an overdyed. I also learned, oh, this little guy, how I ended up with the black trim around it. I was originally going to do some cording to put in here, but this floss from Forbidden Fiber was, it's pre-cut. So that's one of my pet peeves with some of the overdyed flosses is that they're pre-cut. And so I couldn't make cording out of it because it's only like, I don't know, 18-inch lengths. And I needed 3 times this circumference to make my cording. I needed 3 times this in one continuous piece. And so there's no way to make cording from the overdyes. And when I held this up against my DMC color floss chart, there was nothing that was even close. So I could have just used black, but since I was just using black, I raided my stash of trims, and that's how I ended up and why I ended up with that. For this finish, I did follow Vanna Pfeiffer's tutorial on making stand-ups. Her tutorials for finishing are fantastic. I can't recommend them enough. I don't always do everything exactly like she says, but sorry, I'm running out of room here already. But she's just got so many little tips and tricks and how-tos. Like I was struggling, I could think how to do this part. I was struggling with how do I get the right size bottom and how do I get it on, and she addressed that. So then I did want to share, since I went to her site, even if you don't do your own finishing, I highly, highly recommend that you look at her blog, which is thetwistedstitcher.blogspot.com. And at the top, she has a link that's called My Finishing, and it will take you to a Flickr account where she has the last 3 or 4 years, all of her finishes. So this year alone, there's 302 photos. And what I really like is not only does she show the finishing, whoops, sorry, I've got things popping up here. Not only does she show the finishing, but she tells you who the pattern is from. So it's some fantastic inspiration just to, even if you just want to look at patterns. There's one of the tiny towns there done up, some prairie schoolers. Yeah, I mean, her finishing alone is jewel worthy, but it's also a great spot to see patterns that you may not have seen other places. So I highly recommend her blog, even if you don't do your own finishing. I have 2 more FFOs. Oh, sorry, one more thing with Vanna. She recommended an interfacing, which was P44F. I normally use Shapeflex 101, but Shapeflex 101 is a little pricey. So Shapeflex 101 is almost like a very thin, coarse, it's probably the weight of like a batiste, so a really thin cotton. And then it has the adhesive on the back, so you can use it like interfacing, but it's pricey. It's fabric, a very, very thin fabric with the adhesive on the back. Shapeflex 101 is probably more what we think of as interfacing, so it's kind of a webby, synthetic-y feeling kind of like a heavy Kleenex with the adhesive on the back. So she recommended this, and I just checked out Joann's. I was going to go pick some up at the store, and then I realized they had 40% off their interfacing, and then they had a coupon for 25% off your online purchase, including sale prices. And it took an additional 20, so it took 40% off and then an additional 25% off. And I just clicked for my online purchase to pick up in store, and I went and got it the next morning. So I really just, I wanted to share that I like this P44F. I will use it for, there are still things that I will use the Shapeflex 101 for, but the P44F was really nice. It's a great weight for finishing. But I wanted to remind everybody that it is that season where if you have some craft supplies like interfacing, we're getting into the Black Friday sales and stuff, and there are deals that you can stack. Michael's already had their Black Friday pricing on like their picture frames, and their picture frames were buy one get one free. But if you're 55 or older and you sign up for their rewards program and you do the steps so that they can validate that you are in fact 55 or older, you get 10% off. So you buy one basically at 10% off and you get one free. It ends up being a great deal. Yeah, so anyway, I just want to remind everybody, it's that season where it can be, I know money can be tight this time of year, but it is a great time of the year also to stock up on some of those consumable supplies that you go through a lot of. I haven't seen anybody really with a fantastic floss sale, but I normally just buy that at Michael's when they have like a 25% off coupon. This next, I had shown this FFO'd. It is from The Magic of Christmas by Veronique Enginger? My French is rusty. This is the book. It's a fantastic book. I showed it a while back. It's got a lot of really retro, like 1950s maybe looking designs. I'm trying to get to one. Well, like here's one page. Let me see if I can get this close enough. Like this little girl with the mailbox. That's pretty representative of what's in here. But I had finished this previously, but I didn't have the greens and the bow on the bottom. And let me put it in front of my face so that it will focus. Let me hold it really close. I'm trying, guys. It just looked a little blah without anything else, but I had to wait until the Christmas greens were out, and then it took me a while to find ones that were small enough for this little thing, because you can't put like big greens, like, you know, branches as thick as what would be on a Christmas tree. So I finally found some that had some little skinny ones, and I was able to put those on there. So I think this is finished up a little better. So I love this book. I do want to do some more patterns from it this month or in December. They can be a little time consuming. There's a lot of colors in there. It's all done with DMC. So all of the shading is color changes. I think this little guy had like 14 different colors in it. And it's, you know, this size with 14 different colors. So that was 1/1 on I don't remember what it's called. It's from the same, it's one of the vintage, like vintage country mocha, vintage smoky sky, but that's stormy sky. But it's not any of those three, but it's that same manufacturer, same line. So that was just all I did on that was add the greens to it, but it looks much better. I'm a lot happier with it now. This next one I had fully finished in 2021. I think I had finished it. I hadn't framed it or done anything with it because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, and it was an odd shape and size. This is Margaret Sherry Christmas Cuties, and it was a kit that I bought on the magazine rack at Joann's several years ago, and I found a frame that it works in, and I got it. I framed it up. So here it is up close. There is some metallic threads in there. The gold's like in the red scarf, and that little mouse that's upside down in the upper corner, and on the green scarf. But I got it framed. I found a frame that actually it's pretty close to the frame they've got it in, so I maybe have a tiny bit more space up here, but that's to be the sky, so I'm okay with that. So now this is ready. I can hang it up just in time for Christmas. So those were that's all of my FFOs. You had seen most of them, like I said, as finished stitching, just not fully finished. And now they're done. So stitching that I got done. I did get some stitching done in addition to finishing. I worked on the Hello from Liz Matthews Quaker Pumpkins. That's this pattern. And I am doing it a little bit different because I didn't want it to say All Hallows Eve. I wanted it to be more autumnal than Halloween, because I showed you my Halloween patterns. I've got a ton of Halloween patterns. I need some more that can be up through November. So let me hold it back here first, and then I'll hold it up close. This is on 32 count Fiber on a Whim butternut squash. And what I got done on it was a bunch more of the small Quaker motifs up here. And then I have the frame already for this, and I needed to deal with that so that I knew how far I needed to bring this line up and start the border. And then the border will get another line like this little chain looking thing inside. But here it is up close. Sorry, the color washes out when I get up close, but it's 2/2 on 32 count. And the true color is somewhere in between what you're seeing there and this. Well, actually, maybe it is that bright yellow. It's not quite as neon looking, but it is pretty bright. And then most of it is in the called for colors. There was something I swapped out, and I did not like the over dyed for this border, so this is just $37.99, which is kind of a bluish steel gray, which is good because it's using over 2 skeins of floss to get through. It will use over 2 skeins by the time I'm done all of the border. So I've got a couple more Quakers here to do, the little tiny motifs. I had to get more of this amber, and then I've got to finish the border, and this will be done. But I really only have about, well, I guess I do have a week and a half to work on this. I'm really jonesing to start working on Christmas is my problem now. Well, I also got distracted by some other fall stitching. So the other thing I worked on, I got behind in October. I did it on purpose because I didn't want to stitch Christmas. I wanted to stitch Halloween. This Welcome to the North Pole from Primrose Cottage Stitches. It's the one that started back in June with this Welcome to the North Pole section, and it was 1 section a month, and it should finish this in November. I am still on the houses here though. My plan for this is to frame it, but I don't want it in the frame with the bow on it like that. I'll use a simpler frame. And I am stitching it again on 28 count, but again, Fiber on a Whim. And this is Milk and Honey, and I am using the DMC. They have it charted with overdyeds and with DMC, and I'm using the DMC. There are so many color changes in this that DMC is fine. I'm not sure. I would never use overdyed for something with this many color changes and small amounts of color. So I had the green tree and I had the brown and the black on the house done last time. So I've done all of the other little ornaments on the tree and the decorations on the house and all of the white and the other two houses over here. And then we were trying to figure out what these blobs are at the bottom, and my friend Quinn pointed out that they are gumdrops, which made sense. Sort of. I guess this is maybe supposed to look like a gingerbread house. But that's where I'm at on there. So I only have a light post. The only thing I have left to do is this light post and this black roof and then a little bit of white up here. And October is done. And then November will be Mrs. and Mrs. Claus and the sleigh. But I'm probably still going to be stitching on this in December would be my guess. So next time I show it, I'll have it out of the frame and ironed so you can at least see what it looks like all together, because it is nearing finishing. I'm excited. I do like this one. You can kind of see it. It's pretty big. I think it's going to fit in a 10 by 20 frame. So that's that one. Then these next two are actually starts because I lost my mind or something. No, I needed a new really portable travel project, and so I have this mouse trilogy, this from the Mouse Trilogy from Mill Hill, and this one's called Mac Cheese. I did the other two mice that are in the trilogy already. They're already FFO'd and in my Christmas ornaments, so they will go up on the tree this year. But I just started this, and I didn't get very far. Well, it's actually a lot of stitching, but it's not very exciting to look at. So I am doing it on the perforated paper. I like stitching on perforated paper. It makes these make just such a nice travel kit, as long as I remember to sort all of the flosses in advance. So that's the other time I really like my DMC floss card, the one with all of the samples of every color, because these kits do tell you what number the floss is, and it is DMC in here, but there are 8 different yellows in here. Light yellow, very light yellow, very, very light yellow, medium yellow, dark yellow. And it can be impossible to sort them out. And then you've got gold and orange and I don't know. I had trouble sorting some of these. So the floss chart is a good way to validate that, yeah, you sorted everything out right. I don't have my cards in here that I've got the floss stuck on. But I got the floss all sorted and got this started. So it looks kind of brownish green on here. It's all this bottom is what's done. I'm ready to start on the cheese, on the firecracker, and the other things there. The only thing at the bottom are there's a few beads that go on at the bottom. Kind of yellowish looking things that are in the brown down there. So I worked on that. Where to put that so I don't lose it. And then this last thing is Rosewood Manor Autumn Quakers. And this is the pattern. It is, I want to focus. There it goes. Okay, it doesn't like my face in there or else it won't focus. It's big. It's a lot of stitching. It's a lot of color changes. It comes, I got a couple things here to show. So I'm using the Valdanis, which are what the model is stitched in. I bought this on a D-Stash site, and it was a set. The person was selling the pattern and the Valdani, and I got them for a super price. Honestly, I got them both less than what the Valdani alone would cost. But the Valdanis in the box are so yummy. Let me see if those colors are coming out true. They're pretty true. They're just fun. They come in this little box. They're beautiful variegations. You can see the variegation that's in them. But when I show you the piece, you'll see like every 5 to 20 stitches, you're changing color. And where you use one color, the next time that same color gets used is too far of a jump to carry. So you really are changing your color over and over and over again. And it's the only real way to stitch this. So I am using this little doodad, which I had eyed them up before, and then I saw somebody at Stitch New Jersey using one and asked how they liked it. They loved it. They were using it for a mirror. I don't know that I would need it for a mirabilia, because on those there are a lot more continuous stitches all in the same color. I can do cross country on those. You can't on this. But this little tray, so you can organize your floss on here. I actually have a needle. I don't know if you can see it. There's actually a needle already threaded with each floss, so they're ready to go. This also made sense for me because I wouldn't want to deal with cutting off what I needed every time I needed a piece off the spool. So I cut a bunch of lengths pre-cut, ready to go. This floss from Valdani is 3-strand, and you stitch it on 28 count, and you don't separate the 3 strands. So you just use it exactly as it comes off the spool. So this is what I did to set up to work on Autumn Quakers, with every color sorted out and pre-threaded. It also gave me a chance to use up my older needles, so I have become addicted to EdMar needles, and they come in a little tube like this. And if I can get it to focus on the name, maybe. It is actually EdMar, EdMar, edmarco.com. I absolutely love these needles. The ends are a little bit blunter, less sharp than a lot of tapestry needles, so you don't split your threads at all with them. And I was laughing at the one retreat because I said the needle itself feels smoother, which makes no sense. They're all like stainless steel, but I swear they're smoother. So somebody else at the table asked if they could see one, and they said it felt to them like the Pat Carson needles, which I know a lot of people loved and aren't made anymore. So if you haven't tried them, I highly recommend the EdMar needles. They come in 4 in the little tube, and I think they're around $3 or $4. They're 3 something. I don't remember if they're closer to $3, closer to $4. They're 3 something. But so these have become my preferred needles. And I didn't have 12 of these, so I decided to use all of my stash of Peacemakers and John James on my preloaded needles, and it kind of wiped out my stash of non-EdMar needles, which are what I tend to grab all the time now as my favorite. So that was my setup. Now to what I actually stitched, and you'll see what I mean about the color changes. Let me put something behind here. So this is on the called for Picture This Plus doubloon, which is kind of an odd cream color. It's a little bit gold. I don't know. It is an odd color. But if I hold this up really close, now some of this is the variegated thread, but mostly it is floss color changes. So the biggest thing I got to stitch all in one color was the middle, was this kind of pinkish center here. Everything else, like if you look at this motif up here, every section, it was a different color in there. So it is a lot of color changes, and that's what the entire pattern looks like. A lot of fun to stitch, but I definitely think pre-threading all of the needles was the way to go for it, or you would drive yourself crazy unthreading and rethreading your needle. But yeah, like if you look at this motif here, this was one color, this is the second one, there's a little row here that's the third one, then this piece is a fourth one. Here we've got, I think we're back to a color that was above, but it's another color change. Here's another color change, and then this was another color change, and this whole thing is like that, and this whole pattern is like that. So if you don't like changing colors, not the project for you. Although she does suggest in here, one of her ideas is to do the whole thing using just one color of variegated floss, and that would be beautiful. There's not really things in here that would have to be certain colors. Now I was very excited because this was a big chunk of page 1. It's probably about a quarter of page 1, but this is 9 pages. Yeah, it was 9. Well, it's 6 pages and then 3 like half pages. So, but I got a big chunk of page 1 done, which seemed like a lot, but if you look, it's just this little corner up here. That's all I got done. Yeah, this is gonna be a long-term project. But it is a blast to stitch on. Yeah, I can't wait to see more. I know you want it up closer, but the colors are better back here. So I'll hold it back here, so you can see the colors, and then up close if you want to see my actual stitches. But see that, I don't know why the light flickers like that. I mean, the color flickers. I've been researching lighting to use, but I haven't found a great alternative yet. So I got a bunch of junk piled here, and I'm looking to see if there was anything else that I wanted to show today. So I think that's all of my stitching related stuff for this week. I did start getting out my Christmas quilts. Next time I film, I will have one of the Christmas quilts behind me, and actually I got a little tree that I'm going to put here, so I'll have a tree behind me. I mentioned before, this is also my home office where I do my corporate day job full-time, and I decided I spent way too many hours in here not to have some Christmas cheer in here. You can tell I like to keep it bright, and that helps me keep my energy up during the workday. But so I debated putting my living room, I have 2 Christmas trees, one in my family room, one in my living room. I debated putting the living room one in here, but it's huge. It would fill up the entire room. I'd be over there at my desk, like squished up with a tree right behind me. People would think I'd lost my mind. So I got a 3rd Christmas tree, which I'm going to put in here. It's a really skinny pencil tree. So next time you'll get to see one of my Christmas quilts and my Christmas tree. But I do have one Christmas quilt which will get hung out in the house, and I was going to show it before it gets hung, so that I can't show it, or I have to like stop filming and carry the camera out there. But this quilt, and I'm going to stand up too, and you're not going to see me, you're going to see the quilt. This quilt is the pattern is from Diary of a Quilter. It is free directions on her blog or website. I'll link it below. And I can't get back far enough to really show this. It is very much a free form, sew it on, hack it off, sew another piece on, chop it off, and then you trim your blocks all up so that they're the right size to sew together. Here's how big mine is. And then my back is also pieced, so this is what the back looks like. I think these blocks were just a little bit too small, hence this red piece over here that runs down the side. Yeah, there's a piece at the bottom as well. These blocks were from a layer cake, so they were 10-inch squares, and they are the 10-inch squares that didn't get used on the front. So a lot of these patterns like this one and these came from that same layer cake, but the bigger patterns didn't really work for the trees. So I used them for the back, and then that used up my layer cake. And this was machine quilted on my home machine, and I'm gonna come closer so you can see that. I have an Elna machine at home. It is similar to a Janome. They're basically the same machine. And this stitch is on the Elna and Janome. I do know it's not on a Bernina. But it was a great stitch to give like just a garland look to go across the Christmas trees. So this hangs in my foyer over the cabinet that I have taken pictures or shown my other quilts hanging there before. And this is where that will go. And then I have a different quilt, like I said, that will get hung in here before I see you again. So I think that is everything for today. Everybody have a fantastic Thanksgiving. I hope you and your families are safe and that you get to enjoy some healthy, happy time together. It's a wonderful time to just reflect on what we're thankful for the year and for within our lives. So until I see you again, have a happy Thanksgiving. Bye.